On a warm spring morning, the small chapel nestled on the edge of a quiet town shimmered in the soft light of dawn. Pale pink roses and white lilies adorned every corner of the sanctuary, and the delicate chime of wind bells whispered promises of joy and new beginnings. Today was meant to be a day of celebration for Monica, a gentle and resilient woman who had raised her beloved daughter Aaliyah on her own after a long and painful past. Monica had found love again in Bianca, a striking woman whose elegant smile and refined manners had captured the hearts of many. Yet, behind Bianca's seemingly perfect facade, a darkness brewed, a secret that would soon be exposed by the unyielding courage of one small girl. Aaliyah, an 8-year-old with luminous dark skin and inquisitive eyes that missed nothing, had always possessed a strong sense of right and wrong. Though tender in years, her wisdom often surpassed that of the adults around her. Ever since Bianca had entered their lives, Aaliyah had felt an unsettling shift in the atmosphere of their modest home. At first, Bianca appeared kind and attentive when Monica was present, showering her with gentle compliments and tender gestures. But in the quiet moments when Monica was away or busy with preparations, Aaliyah noticed a coldness in Bianca's tone and a harshness in her actions. Small things, a dismissive word here, a sharp gesture there, accumulated in the young girl's mind like dark clouds on an otherwise bright day. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Aaliyah watched as Bianca's behavior grew increasingly peculiar. When they first met, Bianca had greeted Aaliyah with warmth, kneeling down to introduce herself as a friend who would soon be a family member. The memory of that day, with the sunlight streaming through the front windows and the gentle laughter echoing in the hall, was quickly overshadowed by later incidents that left Aaliyah feeling isolated and anxious. There were evenings when, as Monica prepared for the celebration, Bianca's smiles turned thin and her words laced with subtle yet piercing barbs. One evening, while sitting at the dinner table, Aaliyah had tried to share an exciting story about her day at school. Instead of receiving encouragement, Bianca had interrupted her abruptly, ordering her to be quiet, and even casting a dismissive look that made the little girl's heart sink. It was during one such evening that Aaliyah first sensed that something was terribly wrong. Monica, ever busy with wedding details, had left Aaliyah alone in the living room while Bianca retreated to a quiet corner of the house. The sound of hurried footsteps and hushed whispers reached Aaliyah's ears. Peeking from behind a half-open door, she saw Bianca speaking on the phone in a tone that did not match the gentle woman she presented in public. The conversation was filled with coded language, references to money and policies, and mentions of an unnamed partner. Aaliyah could not make sense of every word, but phrases like accidental demise and life policy payout echoed ominously in her young mind. The idea that someone could benefit from someone else's misfortune unsettled her deeply, and she clutched a small stuffed animal to her chest as a cold dread seeped into her bones. Days turned into restless nights for Aaliyah as she mulled over what she had overheard. Every time she saw Bianca smiling politely at her mother or giving a tight-lipped nod at family gatherings, she wondered if the kind mask was hiding something truly sinister. The once secure feeling of home had been replaced by an atmosphere of uncertainty and fear. The little girl began paying closer attention to Bianca's habits. She noted how, whenever Monica was around, Bianca's tone softened. Yet when Monica was not present, Bianca's eyes seemed to flicker with a hidden calculation. Aaliyah started piecing together the fragments of overheard conversations and secretive glances. In the quiet of her bedroom, by the light of a small night lamp, she reviewed every detail in her memory. The more she thought about it, the more convinced she became that Bianca was not the person she pretended to be. One afternoon, while Monica was busy with wedding arrangements and Bianca was out on one of her frequent errands, Aaliyah found herself wandering the quiet halls of their home. Her feet carried her to the study, a room that Monica had always said was private. The door stood slightly ajar, and a faint glow emanated from within. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, Aaliyah quietly pushed the door open and peered inside. There, on a sleek silver laptop resting on a mahogany desk, was evidence of Bianca's hidden life. Aaliyah's heart pounded as she noticed several files with names that sent shivers down her spine. One document, labeled simply as Policy Details, was open on the screen. Although the legal jargon went over her head, She recognized terms like indemnity, beneficiary, and a staggering sum of money, enough to ruin a family in a single stroke. Her small fingers trembled as she clicked through the files, each one revealing more hints of a grand, sinister scheme. There were photos of Bianca with a mysterious man whose face was marked by a prominent scar, and a series of messages that hinted at a carefully orchestrated plan to secure a life-changing payout by ensuring a tragic accident. Aaliyah's mind raced. She recalled the moments when Bianca's demeanor had shifted inexplicably, the way she would glance around furtively when her phone buzzed, the urgency in her voice when she mentioned meeting someone named Raphael, and the way her eyes would darken when speaking about ensuring a secure future. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Bianca was not only cold and indifferent, but was plotting something dreadful, something that could rob Monica of her life and leave Aaliyah orphaned. The realization weighed heavily on Aaliyah, but it also ignited a fierce determination within her. Even though she was small and often underestimated, she knew in her heart that she could not allow this deception to continue. In the days that followed, Aaliyah began gathering more evidence. When Bianca left the house for what she called wedding preparation meetings, Aaliyah would sneak into the study and review the laptop files. She carefully memorized phone numbers, dates, and even the partial names of contacts that appeared in text messages. Her mind, both fearful and resolute, worked overtime to connect the dots. Meanwhile, Monica, oblivious to the growing storm, busied herself with every detail of the wedding. She was excited about starting a new chapter in her life after years of solitude, and she believed wholeheartedly in the goodness of Bianca. Friends and family gathered to celebrate the impending union, each remarking on how wonderful it was that Monica had found love again. They admired Bianca's grace and charm, completely unaware of the darkness lurking beneath her exterior. The tension within the household grew with every passing day. Aaliyah's anxiety became palpable in the quiet moments when she sat in her room, staring out of the window, as if seeking answers from the drifting clouds. She recalled the conversation she had overheard, a conversation where Bianca had whispered to Raphael about making sure nothing stands in the way and ensuring that Monica never suspects a thing. The weight of those words pressed on her small heart, and she began to realize that if she did not speak up, the consequences would be dire. The thought of losing her mother, her anchor in a turbulent world, filled her with a cold terror. Yet, the resolve to protect Monica burned brightly within her. Every night, as she lay in bed, Aaliyah rehearsed the words she would say. She pictured herself standing in front of the gathered guests at the wedding, her voice trembling yet determined as she revealed the hidden truth. The idea of interrupting the joyous occasion terrified her, but the alternative, allowing Bianca's plot to come to fruition, was unthinkable. As the wedding day drew near, the atmosphere in the house grew tense. Monica spent long hours choosing the perfect dress, arranging the flowers, and rehearsing her vows, while Bianca's visits became more frequent and her behavior more erratic. There were moments when Bianca would receive mysterious phone calls and quickly retreat into a side room, her eyes darting around as if watching for unseen threats. In these moments, Aaliyah's instincts screamed that time was running out. The little girl began leaving subtle clues for herself, a mental ledger of every suspicious incident. She noted the times Bianca's voice shifted, the cryptic references in her conversations, and even the way she avoided meeting Aaliyah's gaze when the subject of the future was mentioned. On the morning of the wedding, the chapel was abuzz with excitement. Family and friends filled the pews, exchanging cheerful greetings and admiring the exquisite decorations that transformed the sacred space into a scene from a dream. Monica, radiant in a flowing ivory gown, was the picture of serenity and hope as she prepared to say, "I do," to a new beginning. Aaliyah, dressed in a petite but elegant suit that her mother had chosen for her, clutched her favorite doll tightly in her arms. Despite the cheerful ambience, Aaliyah's heart beat with a mixture of dread and determination. The evidence she had gathered, the whispered conversations, and the secrets hidden on that silver laptop weighed heavily on her mind. Today, she resolved, would not pass without her speaking the truth. The ceremony began in the traditional manner, with soft music filling the chapel and the gentle murmur of the guests creating a harmonious backdrop. Monica walked down the aisle, accompanied by the proud smiles of those who had witnessed her journey of healing. Bianca, standing at the altar, greeted her with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. As the officiant began to speak words of love and commitment, Aaliyah's inner voice grew louder. She could no longer contain the torrent of revelations that had accumulated over the past weeks. The moment had come to break the silence. As the officiant's voice resonated through the chapel, Aaliyah's small form trembled at the front of the congregation. Every eye turned toward her when, in a voice that wavered with both fear and determination, she cried out, "Stop the wedding!" A hush fell over the room as the guests exchanged startled glances. Monica's eyes widened in shock, and Bianca's smile faltered for a split second before being replaced by a mask of controlled alarm. The officiant paused, unsure how to proceed, as Aaliyah took a deep breath and began to speak. "I have something very important to say," Aaliyah began, her voice rising despite her trembling lips. "I know that everyone thinks Bianca is kind and loving, but I have seen a different side. I have heard her talking on the phone when Mommy was not here. I have seen files on her computer that talk about policies and money. I know that Bianca has been planning to hurt Mommy so that she can get a lot of money from her life insurance. I heard her say things about making sure nothing stands in the way of her plan. I have seen pictures of her with a man I have never met who has a scar on his face, and I know his name is Raphael. I am not making this up. Please, listen to me." The silence that followed was heavy and disbelieving. Monica's face shifted from confusion to deep hurt as she struggled to understand the words coming from her daughter. Bianca's eyes narrowed, and her hands clenched into tight fists as she attempted to regain control of the situation. The guests murmured among themselves. Some looked at Aaliyah with sympathy, while others exchanged glances that betrayed shock and uncertainty. Monica stepped forward, her eyes filling with tears as she knelt beside Aaliyah. "Sweetheart, what are you saying?" she whispered, voice trembling with both love and disbelief. Aaliyah's eyes filled with unshed tears as she continued. "Mommy, please listen. I saw things. I heard Bianca talking about everything. The money, the policy, and how she planned to make sure that nothing stops her from getting what she wants. I am scared, Mommy. I don't want to lose you." For a long moment, the chapel was suspended in time. Monica looked between her daughter and Bianca, her heart torn between maternal love and the shocking possibility that the woman she had trusted might be a liar and a danger. Bianca, who had until that moment maintained a veneer of composed charm, now seemed exposed and frantic. Her voice, once smooth and honeyed, became strained as she attempted to explain away Aaliyah's words. "This is absurd," Bianca said, forcing a laugh that rang hollow in the charged silence. "Aaliyah is just a little girl. She does not understand what she is saying. I have always been kind to both of you. There is no plan, no policy. You are imagining things." But Aaliyah pressed on, her voice steadier with every word. "I am not imagining anything. I found documents. I overheard conversations. I saw your messages on your phone, Bianca. I have been keeping track, and I know you have been planning something terrible. Please, Mommy, you have to believe me." At that moment, the officiant's voice faltered as he attempted to regain control of the ceremony. The congregation murmured in disquiet, the joyous occasion now transformed into a scene of heartbreak and betrayal. Monica's eyes searched Aaliyah's earnest face, and slowly, as if waking from a long, painful dream, she began to remember the inconsistencies, the cold glances, and the strange phone calls that had haunted their evenings. Tears streamed down Monica's cheeks as she stood and faced Bianca. "Bianca, is there any truth in what Aaliyah is saying?" she demanded softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "I have always trusted you, but my daughter is telling me things that I cannot ignore." Bianca's face paled, and for a moment, the mask of charm slipped entirely. The air in the chapel grew thick with tension as she struggled to form a coherent response. I can explain," she stammered, but her words were met with disbelief. The guests, once eager to witness a union, now looked on with a mixture of horror and sympathy for Monica. Some whispered that they had noticed Bianca's furtive glances and nervous habits over the past few weeks, though none had dared speak up before now. Monica's hands trembled as she reached for Aaliyah, pulling her daughter into a gentle embrace. "Thank you, my love," she whispered, her voice filled with both sorrow and gratitude. "I should have listened sooner." At that moment, The truth that had been hidden in plain sight began to unravel. Monica's mind raced as she recalled the moments when Bianca's behavior had seemed out of place, the stern looks when discussing finances, the hurried phone calls that ended abruptly when Monica entered the room, and the way Bianca's eyes would darken when speaking of the future. The silence was shattered when a relative in the front row stood up and asked, "What exactly did you hear, dear?" The question rippled through the crowd, and Bianca's composure crumbled further. Unable to continue her charade, Bianca's eyes darted around in desperation. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she finally said in a low, urgent tone. "I was only trying to secure our future. I wanted everything to be perfect." Her voice cracked, revealing the underlying panic that had been concealed behind her elegant smile. But Aaliyah was relentless in her pursuit of the truth. "You wanted everything to be perfect for the money," she declared, her small voice echoing through the chapel. "You talked about a big payout, about policies, and about making sure that nothing stands in your way. I know you have a partner, Raphael, and I saw pictures of you together. You are not who you say you are." With each word, Aaliyah's voice grew stronger, her determination radiating from her every pore. The congregation listened in stunned silence as the little girl continued her impassioned plea for the truth. Monica felt as though the ground beneath her feet had shifted. The woman she had come to trust, the woman who had promised a new beginning, was now revealed to be a master of deceit. As tears streamed down her face, Monica turned to the officiant and said, "I must call this wedding off. I cannot in good conscience continue with a union built on lies and betrayal." The shock in the room was palpable. Some guests gasped in disbelief, while others murmured in support of Monica's decision. The atmosphere had transformed from one of celebration to one of mourning for the lost trust and shattered dreams. Before anyone could react further, Bianca's face contorted in a mixture of anger and desperation. "This is all a misunderstanding," she cried out, her voice rising in panic. "You are letting a child's imagination run wild. I love Monica. I have loved her, and I was going to give her everything she ever wanted. How can you throw all of that away because of a rumor?" Her words, however, fell flat against the overwhelming evidence of her own actions, and the murmurs of disapproval grew louder in the wake of her protest. At that moment, a few of the guests began to ask for more details. An elderly aunt, her eyes filled with concern, inquired, "What exactly did you overhear, dear?" Aaliyah, summoning all her courage, recounted the fragmented conversations, the secretive tones, and the chilling details of the documents she had discovered. Her voice did not waver as she described the file labeled policy details and the disturbing figures that accompanied it. She spoke of the mysterious text from a contact named Raphael and the photographs that showed Bianca with a man whose scar was unmistakable. Every detail, no matter how minute, was laid out before the shocked audience. Monica's heart broke as she listened. The realization that she had been deceived by someone she had allowed into her most private moments was almost too much to bear. Yet, in that heartbreaking moment, Monica also recognized the strength and clarity of her daughter's intuition. She pulled Aaliyah closer, and in a trembling voice she said, "I am so sorry, my darling. I should have listened to you from the beginning. I will do everything I can to make sure we are safe." As the full scope of the deception sank in, several family members began making calls, and soon a couple of police officers entered the chapel. Their calm, authoritative presence provided a semblance of order amid the chaos. One of the officers gently approached Monica and Aaliyah, asking for a detailed statement of what had occurred. In between her tears, Monica recounted the events, and Aaliyah provided her evidence in a voice that was both mature and resolute for her age. The officers promised that a thorough investigation would be launched immediately, and that no stone would be left unturned in uncovering the truth behind Bianca's actions. In the ensuing hours, the atmosphere outside the chapel was one of hushed whispers and restless anxiety. Guests slowly departed, many still in shock over the dramatic turn of events. Some expressed their support for Monica and Aaliyah, while others questioned how such a well-regarded woman like Bianca could harbor such malevolent intentions. The whispers eventually gave way to the stern statements of the officers, who confirmed that Bianca was no longer welcome and that a search had already been initiated to locate her. Within the following days, as news of the wedding debacle spread throughout the community, the investigation began to unravel Bianca's intricate web of deceit. It emerged that Bianca had been involved in a series of fraudulent schemes targeting wealthy widows and single parents, using her charm to win their trust only to later manipulate them into risky financial decisions. The documents that Aaliyah had uncovered on the laptop were presented as concrete evidence in the case, leaving little doubt about Bianca's intentions. Moreover, testimonies from several acquaintances corroborated Aaliyah's account, revealing that Bianca had frequently discussed a plan to secure a multi-million-dollar payout through a life insurance policy that would only be activated upon a sudden, untimely death. For Monica, the ordeal was a painful lesson in trusting one's instincts and the importance of listening to those who see the world with unfiltered honesty. She found solace in the unwavering support of her family and friends, and she began to rebuild her life, determined to create a safe and loving environment for Aaliyah. In the aftermath, Monica sought counseling and leaned on the strength of those who had witnessed her vulnerability and stood by her side. Her heart ached with regret for having almost allowed a stranger into her life without fully questioning her motives, but she also felt immense pride in her daughter's courage. Aaliyah, despite her tender age, became a symbol of resilience in the community. Her bravery in speaking out had not only saved her mother, but had also shed light on a sinister plot that could have destroyed an entire family. The local newspapers carried stories about the brave little girl whose keen senses had uncovered a dangerous conspiracy. In interviews, people praised Aaliyah for her forthrightness and her unwillingness to be silenced by the expectations that often confine children to roles of quiet obedience. As the investigation progressed, the authorities discovered more details about Bianca's network. Her partner, Raphael, who had been instrumental in orchestrating the fraudulent plans, was eventually apprehended after a tense chase that ended in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Under questioning, Raphael confessed to his involvement in a series of scams that had affected multiple families across the region. The confession sent shockwaves through the community, and many families that had once held Bianca in high regard now felt betrayed and deceived. Over the next several weeks, Monica and Aaliyah faced the challenge of healing from the emotional trauma. The scars left by Bianca's manipulation were deep, yet through counseling and the unwavering bond they shared, mother and daughter began to rediscover the beauty of their own resilience. Monica often reflected on the painful irony that it was her own daughter who had saved her from a future filled with sorrow and loss. At home, the atmosphere slowly transformed from one of mistrust and fear to one of cautious hope and rebuilding. Even as the legal proceedings against Bianca and Raphael unfolded, Monica made it clear that her primary focus was on nurturing a safe and loving home for Aaliyah. She invested in a new security system and ensured that every precaution was taken so that neither she nor her daughter would ever again fall victim to such deception. Friends rallied around them, offering both emotional and practical support. In community gatherings and church services, Monica's story was shared as a testament to the strength that can be found in listening to one's inner voice and to those who speak the truth, regardless of their age. Throughout this turbulent period, Aaliyah remained a beacon of light and courage. Though she sometimes struggled with the weight of the responsibility that had been thrust upon her, she never lost the innate spark that had always defined her. In school, her teachers noticed a quiet determination in her work and a sensitivity to the suffering of others. Her classmates, inspired by the news of her bravery, began to treat her with a newfound respect and admiration. And at home, Monica made sure that Aaliyah knew that her intuition was not something to be silenced, but to be celebrated. One crisp autumn afternoon, several months after the wedding had been called off, Monica received a call from one of the investigating officers. The voice on the other end of the line was gentle, yet firm as he explained that Bianca had been located at a small motel on the outskirts of a nearby city. In a twist that neither Monica nor Aaliyah had anticipated, the officers reported that Bianca had taken her own life, leaving behind a note in which she expressed remorse for the harm she had caused but admitted that she could not live with the overwhelming guilt. The news was met with mixed emotions: relief that Bianca would no longer be a threat, sorrow for the tragedy of a life ended in despair, and a somber reminder of the pain that deceit can inflict upon innocent lives. Monica, though devastated by the loss, found solace in the fact that Bianca's dark chapter was finally over. In a quiet moment of reflection, she sat with Aaliyah in the living room, the late afternoon light casting long shadows across the floor, and said, "My darling, today marks the end of a terrible chapter. I know it hurts, and I know you are still frightened by what happened, but we must look to the future with hope. I promise you that I will always listen to you, and together we will build a life filled with love and truth." Aaliyah, her eyes wide with both sadness and determination, nodded silently, understanding that the pain they had endured was also the foundation for their newfound strength. In the months that followed, the community slowly began to heal from the shock of the wedding debacle. Monica and Aaliyah's story served as a powerful reminder that appearances could be deceiving and that the voices of those often dismissed as too young or insignificant might carry the weight of truth. Monica took every opportunity to speak at local gatherings about the importance of trusting one's instincts and fostering open communication within families. She emphasized that love was not just about grand gestures or fairy tale endings, but about the honesty and integrity that bind people together in moments of both joy and despair. Aaliyah, too, grew from the experience. Her resolve to always speak her truth became an inspiration to others, and she began writing in a small journal about her feelings and the lessons she had learned. In her neat, deliberate handwriting, she recorded not only the events of that fateful day, but also the countless small moments of kindness that had followed. The gentle smile of a neighbor, the comforting embrace of a friend, the reassuring words of her mother. Over time, Aaliyah's journal became a testament to her journey from fear to courage, a chronicle of a young girl who had dared to challenge a powerful deceit and had emerged stronger for it. As autumn deepened into winter, Monica and Aaliyah found new rhythms in their lives. The painful memories of Bianca and the chaos of the wedding slowly faded into the background, replaced by the warmth of shared moments and the promise of a future forged in trust. Monica began dating again cautiously, but she always ensured that any new relationship was built on transparency and mutual respect. Aaliyah watched her mother navigate these new waters with a mixture of hope and wariness, and she learned that healing was a process that took time and required the courage to face even the darkest truths. One chilly evening, as the first snow of winter began to fall softly outside, Monica and Aaliyah sat together by the fireplace. The flickering flames painted dancing shadows on the walls, and the quiet of the night offered a peaceful contrast to the turbulent events of the past year. Monica turned to Aaliyah, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and sorrow, and said, "I want you to know that you have saved me in ways I never thought possible. Your courage, your insistence on truth, has shown me that love must always be guarded and nurtured with honesty. I am proud of you, my brave little one, and I promise that from now on, we will always stand together, no matter what challenges come our way." Aaliyah, her small hand clasping her mother's, replied softly, "I always knew something was wrong. I just wanted to protect you. Now we can both be safe, and we can create a future that is built on trust." In that simple exchange, the bond between them was reaffirmed, and the echoes of past pain gave way to the promise of healing and renewal. The journey ahead was still uncertain, and the scars left by Bianca's deceit would take time to fade completely. Yet, in every sunrise and every shared smile, Monica and Aaliyah found hope. Their home, once clouded by mistrust and fear, now resonated with laughter and quiet moments of understanding. Neighbors and friends, having witnessed the courage of a small girl and the resilience of a loving mother, rallied around them. The community began organizing events and support groups dedicated to empowering those who had been hurt by deceit, and Monica's experience became a beacon for others who had learned the hard way that not every smile hides benevolence. In the years that followed, Aaliyah's story continued to inspire. At school, she became known not as the frightened child from a tragic wedding, but as a determined advocate for truth and justice. Her teachers encouraged her to write essays about her experiences, and soon her words reached a wider audience in local newspapers and community newsletters. Monica, too, embraced her role as a mentor, speaking openly about the importance of listening to one's inner voice and protecting those who cannot always speak for themselves. On a bright spring day several years later, as the flowers began to bloom and the air was filled with the promise of renewal, Monica and Aaliyah attended a community fair dedicated to celebrating resilience and hope. Among the many booths and cheerful laughter, a small group had gathered to honor those who had triumphed over adversity. Monica's story was recounted with reverence, and Aaliyah was invited to speak about the lessons she had learned. Standing before an audience of many familiar faces, Aaliyah, now a little older and wiser, spoke with clarity and conviction. I learned that sometimes the truth hides in the smallest of voices. I learned that we must never be afraid to speak up for those we love, even if it means standing alone. And most importantly, I learned that the strength of our hearts can overcome even the darkest of deceptions. Her words were met with applause and tears, a fitting tribute to a journey that had begun with fear and culminated in a powerful assertion of love and courage. Monica, watching her daughter from the side, felt a swell of pride and relief. The scars of the past would remain, but they no longer defined their lives. Instead, they served as a reminder that even in the midst of betrayal and heartache, there is always a chance for redemption and growth. As the fair continued and the community celebrated the triumph of the human spirit, Monica and Aaliyah embraced the knowledge that their future, though once marred by deceit, was now theirs to shape with truth and unconditional love. Aaliyah's revelation had not only saved her mother, but had also sparked a broader conversation about trust, vigilance, and the courage to challenge injustice. In a world where appearances could be deceiving and hidden motives lurked behind every smile, the story of a brave little girl had become a rallying cry for honesty and integrity. Families began to speak openly about their fears and suspicions, and communities formed stronger bonds through shared experiences of resilience. As time passed, the memory of that fateful wedding day transformed from a moment of overwhelming betrayal into a powerful catalyst for change. Monica and Aaliyah, now inseparable in their commitment to truth, forged ahead with a renewed sense of purpose. They built a home filled with light and laughter, where every conversation was imbued with honesty and every decision was made with careful consideration. The pain of the past was never forgotten, but it became the foundation upon which they constructed a future defined by love, trust, and the courage to stand up against injustice. In the quiet moments of each day, when the world seemed to pause and the soft sounds of life filled the air, Monica and Aaliyah often sat together reflecting on how far they had come. Their shared journey, marked by trials and triumphs, was a testament to the unbreakable bond between a mother and her daughter. And in that bond, they found the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Every smile, every tear, every word spoken in the pursuit of truth was a step toward healing, a step that reaffirmed the belief that even in the darkest moments, love could light the way. Aaliyah's revelation had set in motion a chain of events that rippled far beyond the walls of a small chapel on a quiet spring morning. It reminded everyone that sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest truths, and that the courage to speak up can change the course of many lives. For Monica and Aaliyah, the future was no longer shadowed by fear or deceit. Instead, it was a canvas waiting to be painted with hope, resilience, and the enduring power of love. And so, in the warm embrace of a new dawn, Monica and Aaliyah continued their journey together. Their hearts, once burdened by hidden treachery, now beat in unison with the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The lessons learned from those turbulent days would forever guide them, a constant reminder that truth and love are the most powerful forces of all. In a world that often rewards silence and conformity, their story would remain a shining example of what can be achieved when one dares to speak the truth. Years later, as the memory of that dramatic day softened into legend within their community, Monica and Aaliyah found peace in the knowledge that their lives were defined not by the betrayal they had endured, but by the courage they had shown. Their home became a sanctuary where honesty reigned supreme, and every member of the community felt empowered to trust their instincts and stand up for what was right. Aaliyah, now grown and wise beyond her years, often recalled the moment in the chapel as the turning point of her life. She remembered the shock in the eyes of the guests, the tremor in her own voice, and the way her mother had looked at her with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. That day had been a painful lesson, but it was also the day that had united them in an unbreakable bond of truth and love. And as she walked through life, she carried that lesson with her always, a constant reminder that even the smallest among us can make a difference. In the end, the tale of Aaliyah's revelation became more than just a story of a wedding interrupted by hidden deceit. It became a legacy of bravery, a call to always listen to the quiet voices of those who care, and a powerful message that love, when nurtured by honesty, can overcome even the most insidious of schemes. Monica and Aaliyah proved that a family built on trust and mutual respect could weather any storm, and that every act of courage, no matter how small, had the potential to change the world. Their journey was far from over, and while the echoes of past betrayals might occasionally resurface, they faced each new day with open hearts and unyielding hope. In every sunrise, every shared laugh, and every quiet moment of reflection, Monica and Aaliyah found the strength to move forward, together, into a future that was entirely their own. And so, the legacy of that fateful day lived on as a beacon of hope, a reminder that truth, when spoken with courage and compassion, has the power to transform lives and heal even the deepest wounds. Aaliyah's revelation had not only saved her family, but had sparked a movement of openness and resilience that resonated throughout the community. In a world too often clouded by deceit, the unwavering light of a little girl's honesty shone brightly, guiding all those who heard her story toward a better, more truthful tomorrow. As the years continued to pass, Monica and Aaliyah never forgot the lessons learned on that extraordinary day. Their lives became a living testament to the belief that no matter how dark the shadows might seem, the light of truth and love would always prevail. And in every heart that heard their story, there was a spark of inspiration, a call to listen, to question, and to have the courage to stand up for what is right, just as Aaliyah had done when she changed the course of her own life with a single, brave declaration.